Philadelphia, get ready to be inspired. If you need help finding the light in the darkness, don't touch that dial. Let's navigate life through the lens of hope with Scotty P. Inspirational speaker Scotty P speaks the importance of mental health in society and encourages techniques to overcome the everyday mental health obstacles that hold us back in life. It's not just inspiration, it's Scotty P Inspiration.
Good evening, Philadelphia and all the surrounding counties, and for everybody listening nationwide today on this special end of the year episode of the Scotty P Inspiration Show. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here today, and thank you for joining me and sticking with me to end 2022 and bring in 2023. So thank you all for being here today, especially for my local ones out here in Philadelphia. So everybody, we made it. It's the end of 2022. It is New Year's tomorrow. Everyone's got a lot of plans, but I'm super thankful that you're starting your weekend with me so that we can help you to navigate life through the lens of hope and help you to rediscover some of that resilience within yourselves, all while paying attention to our mental health as well, okay? So everybody, thank you so much again. Hope everyone's had a great holiday season. Happy New Year's is tomorrow. I'm excited about that. I'm sure you all are. And today, I've got a great episode to wrap up the year. And this is the end of season 1 for the Scotty P Inspiration Show as well. We got season 2 starting next week, so we ain't going anywhere. But this is the last episode 22, I believe it is, and that wraps up our first season. So I'm super thankful for everybody at the station, all my producers, TJ, Brett, Wes, everybody's been fantastic. So shout out to them at the studio here. Now, everybody, before we jump into it, a couple little business things real quick. If you want to watch previous episodes, all of season 1 is on Spotify. You search the Scotty P Inspiration Show. You can watch any of the 22 episodes. You can do the same on Apple Podcasts. You can do the same on www.dbam.com. And you can also do it on YouTube, my YouTube channel. That's Scotty P Inspiration. That is my channel. Check it out. Okay, everybody? So, as you know, I like to jump into it, get it started. We always start with a quote, and then we'll take it from there. So the quote for today is as followed, okay? Very simple. It is just, "We become the stories we tell ourselves," by Michael Cunningham. Simple quote, "We become the stories we tell ourselves." Wow. And I figured, what better way to end the year than to talk about the story of the year, but more than the story of the year, your own story of 2022, and the story that you tell yourself about the past year that you've had. And I think this episode is really going to dive into that, and I think we've got a lot of great topics to talk about with it today. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Let's go and see where it takes us. Yeah. Okay, so 2022, when we think about this year, there's a lot of different things that come to mind. It's kind of year 3 of being in COVID, but it's a lot different than 21 and 2020, which is great. I think for a lot of us would agree with that. But the fact is, 2022 has a story. Just like every year does. It has a story. And when you look back on this story, you'll most likely define it this year by a few words. This year was blank. This year was blank. This year was blank, right? We all define each year that we live by a couple different words. Inevitably, that's what we always do. But here's the thing. What's really behind those words of the story of this year? Okay, better yet, let me phrase this way for you listeners. What's behind the words that you define the year 2022 as? What's behind those words? So if you're sitting there right now saying, 2022 was a garbage year for me, well, what's behind those words? Or if you're sitting here and saying, wow, 2022 was the best year of my life, what's behind those words, right? I want us to reflect on that and to think about that. And for you, the listener, to think about the year that you've had and the different things that happened to you. And those different things that happened to you help mold and help shape the descriptive story that you look back on this year with. Okay, so I really want you listeners to do that throughout the show. I just want you to think about things that happened to you, the good, the bad, the ugly, the not so bad, the not so ugly, everything, every single thing that happened to you this year. I want you to think about it and really just kind of ruminate on that and let yourself think back to the trials, the tribulations, and the different things you went through, and then find out what you're going to define this year by and find out what's behind those words. So with that being said, I want to ask you this. Could 2022 have a different label if you told yourself a different story concerning your experiences? Okay? So what I mean by that is, all right, let's say you tell yourself a story that 2022 was a year of growth for you. But on the other side of that, let's say you tell yourself 2022 was a year of stagnation for you and nothing went right and everything went wrong and you regressed and you got angry, you got bitter, things didn't work out for you, you had a lot of pain, you had a lot of hurt, you had a lot of heartache. So you tell yourself that 2022 was a year of regression, okay? So let's say that's what you're saying. I hope that's not the case, but if it is, let's go with that, okay? How could that label be different if maybe we told ourselves a different story? And what I mean by that is this. Instead of focusing on all those problems that you had this year, let's not dismiss them. Let's dive into those problems and let's say, okay, the heartache, the relationship problems, the loss of a job, the loss of a loved one, all these different things that you're defining as not so great and regression. What if we looked at it like this, that each one of those challenges that you faced, you made it through because you are still here. And that stands and that counts for something. So all of a sudden, if we start to look at it like that and say, okay, you know what, this year I had this problem, but each one of those problems, I learned something. Each one of those challenges taught me something. From each one of those things, a new opportunity was born. I found out something new about myself and who I am and where I'm going and what I'm doing. I found out that stuff because of those challenges. If we start to look at it like that, oh, wait a minute. Maybe now the label isn't regression, but now maybe the label is progression. Okay, so it's all about how we're choosing to view the stuff that happened to us and the story that we're telling ourselves of this year every single day. And the same can be said for what's the story you're going to tell yourself for 2023. You could start 2023 by telling yourself, well, it can't get any worse than last year, so I guess blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's setting a pretty low bar. I think we could do better than that. But instead, maybe for 2023, you tell yourself, you know what? This year, I'm going to build off of all the things that I learned from last year. The good things, the bad things, the things that hurt so much, the things that were amazing. I'm going to build off of all of that and use those experiences and gain something from it and become better in my own eyesight and my own vision, so to speak. Not literal eyesight, but in your vision of how you see yourself. That's what I meant. And I'm going to use those experiences to help me to do that. Now, that story right there, that's a story that's going to lead to us finding a little bit more of some of the stuff that we desire in this life, some of the feeling a little bit happier, feeling a little bit better about ourselves, right? Because the fact of the matter is there are people out there, I know people, I work with people who had a really tough year this past year, but yet they're not viewing it that way. They're viewing it as a year of growth. They're viewing it as a year of new insights. They're viewing it as a year of sifting through some of those struggles, some of those problems, some of those pieces that needed to go maybe. And they're saying, okay, this new year, 2023, this is going to be a year where I put some of those pieces together. 2022 gave you a lot of pieces. They gave all of us a lot of pieces. Now, you could look at those pieces and say, these pieces stink, man. These pieces are not great at all. Or you could say they are pieces to something bigger that I haven't put together yet. Whoa. And now all of a sudden, 2023 could be a year where you start to put that stuff together, and that's a pretty powerful thing. So let's not dismiss the pieces that happened this year. Let's not dismiss the pain. Let's not dismiss the tragedy. Let's not dismiss the trauma. Let's not dismiss anything that happened, but let's hold on to that piece, see it for what it is, allow ourselves to feel what comes with it, yes, but let's also remember that it's just a piece, and there's more to come. And those pieces, when put together in time, will create something beautiful. Just like I've said before, our lives are a mosaic, and each piece is something different. But when you look at a mosaic at an individual piece, all you see is a jagged piece of something that doesn't look too appealing. But when you put all that stuff together, that's when you see the true masterpiece. Okay? So for you this year, I don't know what happened to you. I don't know if it was a good year, the greatest year, or the worst year. That's for you, the listener, to decide. That's not for me to tell you. But what I will tell you is those pieces are going to be part of something bigger if you allow yourself to view it that way, okay? Allow yourself to view the different pieces of 2022 as something that is going to be built later, but yet keep that hope alive and allow yourself to smile at some of the resiliency, or smile at some of the good things, and realize that the bad things are just making you better. Now, that's how we change the story about how we look at ourselves through the past year. And I hope that's something that you, the listeners, are able to do. And I know it's not going to happen overnight, but just keep that in mind. If I could plant just a little seed by telling you that, and maybe you could salvage something from 2022 and say, you know what? Maybe it wasn't all wreck. Maybe this dude's right what he's talking about. Maybe there was something in this year that I can build on. Even if it is only one piece, you take that piece and you hold on to it. Because you have no idea all the other pieces that might be coming in 2023. And all those other pieces could create something more wild and better than you could ever imagine. But we got to use all the pieces in front of us first before we get to that, okay? So, for everybody, so I just took a swig of water there, need a little something. For my listeners today, as we're starting this episode here, as we're getting into things here, I really want to hone this point into you, and I want you to be introspective. I want you to think about this during the show, after the show, next week, next month, this year. Think about the story that you're telling yourself about this past year and ask if maybe that story needs to change. And maybe it's okay if it needs to change. And maybe still something good might be left to come from it, even though we only have a day left of this year, okay? So as we're moving forward a little bit here too, as I'm saying all this and I'm thinking about all this stuff, it makes me kind of think of a chapter book, right? And I think of our lives like it's this chapter book, and the first obviously few pages of the chapter is us growing up and little kids, yada, yada, yada. And each chapter is maybe a new year or a new milestone or a new point in our lives where something happens, right? So if we're looking at it like this, imagining our life as if it's a chapter book, think about it. We can change the qualities that the main character of this story possesses, because that main character is you. So you can change the qualities of that main character. And what I mean by that is that if your main character in your story is walking around just defeated, discouraged, and feels like everything's wrong and everyone's against you and nothing's ever going to change for you and your life's just going to be miserable forever, you can stop right there before you write another page, and you can say, before I write another page, how can I change the qualities of this character that is me, that is my life? Think about that. Now, how do we go about changing some of those qualities? How do we go about changing our attitude when nothing in our lives seems to change? How do we go about having a positive attitude when everything in our life suggests that we have no reason to be positive? How do we go about being better and happier in life when we get up every morning and we see no reason to do that? How in the world do we do that? Well, I'll say something here that's not super trendy, but it takes time. It's a process, but the first step in that process that allows us to do that and change some of those qualities is realizing that we have the power to. Is realizing that each day that we wake up, this day that we wake up today, there are going to be pieces, like I talked about. There's going to be pieces in the year. There's also pieces within the day. And just because something didn't go exactly how you wanted or exactly the way you wanted, that doesn't mean that all is lost. But very much the opposite. That means something new can be gained from it. Because now your perspective might have to shift a little bit. Now your goals might have to shift a little bit. Now your dreams may have to shift a little bit. But that doesn't mean they're gone. That just means that maybe they're changing. And maybe we need to change with it too. Instead of going around every day with an attitude of my dreams didn't work out, things aren't working out, so I'm miserable and done, we flip that. We change the qualities of our main character and say, no, you know what? My dreams didn't work out exactly as I planned, but I know something new is ahead. I know something new is brewing. I know I'm taking pieces from this situation and I'm going to put them together when the time is right to create maybe something better. Okay, we got to reinstill that hope, that resilience in ourselves, and not just let everything bear us down and say, I'm done when things don't work out. We find a way to keep that hope alive, and we take what we can from that bad situation and we keep moving forward. And we don't hold resentment against it. We don't sit here and focus about what coulda, shoulda, dulda, woulda, no. We take what we can from it. We gather it together and we keep moving forward. That's how progress is made. That's how we find peace. That's how we find happiness. And that's how we learn to let go of the pain that was in that day or that year. Okay, everybody, so we got so much more to talk about here. I'm excited. I love this topic. Please don't go anywhere. Stay with us for the second half of the show. We will be right back after these quick commercial breaks.
Hey everyone, Eric Katz here, the owner of Katz Dogs Canine. Are you working from home and need to get your dog out running around for the day? Will you be traveling this summer and looking for a place to board your pup? Is your dog looking a little shaggy and need a haircut or bath? Are you looking forward to walking around and enjoying this beautiful weather, but you can't because your dog's pulling like a freight train? Well, you're in luck. We are a one-stop shop that focuses on daycare, boarding, grooming, and training. We are located at 35 Middle Road, Percy, PA, on 10 beautiful acres. You can check us out on Facebook and Instagram at CatsDogsK9 or our website, catsdogsK9.com. Our phone number is 855-CATS-DOG, 855-528-9364.
What's going on, everyone? This is Scott Prendergast here, aka Scotty P. Real quick, I want to talk to you about my business. It's called Scotty P Inspiration. And what I am is I'm an inspirational speaker, and I want to help others navigate life through the lens of hope. Now, I do this through speaking engagements, but also one-on-one life coaching. So if you're interested in booking me or doing some of that coaching, let me know. Check me out at www.scottypinspiration.com or check out my Instagram at scottyp_inspo. Find Yourself Boxes was created to foster the connection between a person and those in life who may be working through mental health challenges by providing curated and customizable boxes filled with research-backed wellness products that promote healing. Coupling personal experience with professional mental health guidance, Find Yourself Boxes meets people where they are on their journey. Wellness doesn't look the same for every person, and these products are packaged together to touch various aspects of our wellness spectrum. Find your healing with Find Yourself Boxes at findyourselfboxes.com, and you can get 20% off your first purchase. And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Scotty P Inspiration Show on this Friday today. I want to thank you all so much for joining me as we close out 2022 and start fresh with 2023 tomorrow. I'm so excited. I'm sure everybody else is as well. But before we get back into the message here, what I really want to make sure to do is that if you want to watch any of the previous episodes from season 1 of the Scotty P Inspiration Show, including this one, a couple ways you could do it. You could go on Spotify, search the Scotty P Inspiration Show. You could go on Apple Podcasts, any major podcast platform, search my show, The Scotty P Inspiration Show. You can watch it that way, or you could go on www.dbam.com, watch it that way and search it, or last but not least, you could go on my YouTube channel, that's Scotty P Inspiration, and you can watch all the previous episodes that way as well. So everybody, thanks again for being here on this Friday. Hope everyone's excited for New Year's Eve coming up tomorrow. But today we are talking about the stories that we tell ourselves. Ooh, and especially the stories that we have told ourselves in this past year, 2022, right? Okay, so if you're just tuning in and you missed the first part of the show, no worries at all. We were essentially talking about the stories of the year and the stories of our own lives and our own experiences that we had and what we define this year by. And we were also talking about how we could change that. How just because maybe some things didn't go right or well or exactly how we planned this year, that doesn't mean we have to chalk up this year as not good or terrible or painful or sad or garbage. No, we can take the positives from this year. We can take the little pieces that we got and we can hold on to those and allow ourselves to build something new, something better, something greater in 2023. So maybe for you, 2022 was a year of gathering pieces. Yeah, guess what? Sometimes some years are like that. Not every year we're putting stuff together, creating these big masterpieces, but sometimes it's a year of collecting and building experiences and those pieces, so to speak, right? Maybe that was this year for you. Maybe 2022 didn't have a lot of glamour and glitz and amazing triumphs, but you did learn a lot. You did gain a lot. You did go through some things and pulled some positivities out of that stuff. Well, guess what, my friend? Maybe 2023 is going to be the year where you put that stuff together, okay? So let's have that hope. Let's have that joy. Let's have that really resilience to keep moving forward regardless of what happened in the past year and know that we're going to take that and go and see that this year has every potential to be different, okay? All right, so as we're diving a little bit deeper here, as I've been talking about the idea of our lives as a story, and I believe you even called it a chapter book, right? Here's the thing that I think is interesting to go along with this. We can't change the previous pages of our story. We can't change what happened to us 7 years ago. We can't change what happened to us yesterday. We can't even change what happened to us 20 minutes ago. What's done is done. What is written, so to speak, is written, and we cannot erase those pages no matter how hard that we try. It's not possible, okay? Can't go back in time. So, with that being said, though, although we can't change it, what we can do is learn from it, and we can change something about ourselves to change the direction of the next chapter, of the next page, okay? So maybe things weren't super great for you in the past couple chapters of your life. That doesn't mean that the next few are going to be the same way. Absolutely not. But in order to make sure that doesn't happen, we have to make a change. Ourselves, the main character, the qualities that make us has to change in order to see the chapter change. You follow me there? So what I'm saying here is that, look, next year could be totally different than from this year, or it could be the same, or it could be just a repeat off of the other few chapters that we've had because of how we're viewing our lives. So something about us has to change if we want the story to change. That means our attitude. That means maybe our career. Maybe that means a relationship. Maybe that means a new level of resilience. I don't know what it means for you. That's for you, the listener, to find out about in your life and pinpoint that in your life. But if we want to see some change, it's going to start with the qualities of who we are first. It's going to start with the inside stuff that you cannot see on the outside first. That's where the change begins. Then, once that change happens, we might start to see some of those pages, so to speak, change. Some of those experiences change. Some of those monumental moments change, okay? But before we could do that, we've got to really sit ourselves down and say, if I want my book, so to speak, my life's book to go in a different direction, what change can I make in myself today to make that happen? As opposed to instead of continuing to harp on past chapters that you can do absolutely nothing about. So for you, the listener, I really want you to pay attention to that today. And I really want you to think about it after this episode or during it now too, and think about what changes can I make in my life today that are going to give me the results that I want to see in the future. Now, with this being said, I can hear someone saying, okay, well, Scott, I'm going to change myself, and then tomorrow everything's going to be great. That's a fantasy. Never once did I say that. Because change takes time. Change is a process, especially when it comes with those inside things in us. It's not like we make our decision to change tomorrow and then next week we're all of a sudden jolly and amazing and everything's going right. No, it may take weeks, months, even years. But if we make that decision and we follow up with the process and the action necessary to keep that decision, I guarantee you're going to see some things change. It may not be super flashy, it may not be immediately, but it will happen. Because we are in charge of the qualities of the main character of our story. Sticking with that theme here. And that main character is you. And if you don't like how your story's been so far, you can't change that, what's written, no. But what you can change is something about yourself, your attitude, whatever you need to change. That's for you to listen to find out, but you can make that change. And then you will see that difference, okay? So I want you to think about that as we get towards the end of the show here. But we still got a few more minutes left, and I want to keep talking about this subject because I think it's something that is really, I think it may be one of the biggest things that we deal with on a daily basis. Because I can't tell you personally how many different times I've gone about my life saying a different story about who I am or what I'm supposed to be or what people told me that I was or something that happened in my past. And I let this story just go on repeat and repeat and repeat in my head. And then next thing I know, I'm missing out on current opportunities or current life experiences because I'm stuck in the story of the past and how I keep repeating that and telling myself that time and time again. I realized this a few years ago that I had a tendency to do this a lot. And I had to get to the point where I realized I couldn't change what happened. No, and just like I said, I had to change something about myself, my outlook, my work ethic on the inside part of me to see that desired change on the outside. So I think for all of us today, before anything, you have to first identify what it is, the story that you are telling yourself. Find out what it is. Find out if it's a good story, if it's a bad story, if you're playing the violin constantly in your story, it's saying, oh my goodness, nothing's worked out, or maybe you're being a little bit too arrogant in your story, right? I don't know. Everybody's story is different, but if we want to see that change, it starts by first making sure that we recognize what it is we're saying to ourselves. Because tying that back into the quote that we started the beginning of the show with, we become the stories that we tell ourselves, right? That's what we become. It starts mentally. It starts with what we say to ourselves every day, but that translates into feelings, which translates into actions, which translates into what we see, which then translates back into what we say to ourselves, right? They're all connected, okay? So it starts with the story that we tell ourselves on a daily basis. So with that being said, I want to ask you, the listener, this. as we get towards the end of the show, but we still got a few minutes left here. I want to ask you, what has your narrative been so far for 2022? And I say so far because we still got another day, so don't get it twisted. We're not in 2023 yet. Okay, we'll repeat that again. What has your narrative been so far this year? And I really want you to think about that. Okay, and the next question that I want you to think about is going to be as followed. What do you want your narrative to be in the year 2023? So first question, what's your narrative been so far for 2022? And what do you want your narrative to be in 2023? Underline, bold, highlight, star those two questions and really put some thought into those answers. And those answers are really going to give you the keys that are going to show you the next step that you should take. Maybe you look back and say, yeah, it was a great year. My narrative was that things yada, 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 whatever. Or maybe it was the opposite for this year. Okay, but what's just important as identifying that is then deciding what you want the narrative to be for next year. And knowing that we do have a little bit of a say in that. Okay, maybe not a lot of a say because so many things are out of our hands in lives, but what we can control every day is how we choose to react to these different circumstances, react to these different situations. That's within our control, how we react to this stuff. And that right there is going to really play into the story that we tell ourselves every single day. Okay? So, as we're wrapping up the last episode here of the Scotty P Inspiration Show of 2022 and season 1 simultaneously, there's a couple things that I really want to just share very quickly about takeaways that I hope you, the listeners, were able to get from this show this past year. I hope that by listening to this show into season 1, you were really able to understand that your pain and the struggles and the difficulties that you have in your life are valid. You hear me? What you're going through is valid because it's happening to you, and that's enough to make it so. But I also want you to understand that all these things that we deal with, these pains, these struggles, these difficulties, all of it is temporary, and there's something good that can come from each and every one of it. Now, if you've really been hurt, you may hear that and say, no way, but I can telling you that there is growth to be had from every situation that we go through in our lives. And I've really made my show and all the episodes I talk about kind of revolve around that idea. We don't want to dismiss our pain. We don't want to act like it's not there. We don't want to just throw it out the window and say, yeah, I'm happy, everything's great. No, we don't want to do that. We want to acknowledge it, realize it's there, and allow ourselves time to feel that pain, feel that sadness, feel that hopelessness sometimes, right? We can't just suppress it because suppression leads to regression. Instead, we allow ourselves to feel it, but at some point, after we're done allowing ourselves to feel it, we decide, how am I going to work through this? How am I going to move forward? What good can come from this? How am I going to take this hidden gem and allow it to give me the strength to become something greater, to become something better, right? Just like I said many times in this show before, there's hidden gems in those valleys of life. And we can allow those hidden gems to become something great if we choose to. So everybody, as we wrap up this show today, I hope everybody has a great New Year's Eve tomorrow. I hope you had a wonderful 2022. Thank you for listening to me and for making this show what it was. We had listeners from 5 different countries, multiple different states all around the world. I appreciate you all. We're coming back for season 2 next week, so look forward to it. I'm excited for it. We got so much more content to talk about. So everybody, thank you for making this show great this year. Have a great New Year's Eve. Say goodbye to 2022 and welcome 2023 with open arms. This is Scotty P, everybody, signing off.